I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Madison Elementary School District to order. First item on the agenda, well, it says call to order, an adoption agenda, but don't do the roll call before we adopt the agenda.
That is the smartest idea, Scott. Yes. President Holcomb,
Here.
Vice President Gresham,
Here.
Member Hazy,
Here.
Member Thompson,
Present.
Member Spear,
Here.
all are present.
Thank you. With that, now I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda unless any member of staff or the board wants to make any changes to the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second the motion.
Moved by Ms. Thompson, second by Ms. Kazi. Please vote. Did you all vote? Because mine it hasn't come up. So it's not just me. No. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay. All right, that brings us up to the call for an executive session. We do have a basis for calling an executive session. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Spears, seconded by Ms. Thompson. We voting electronically or by voice?
I think we've got it now.
Okay, please vote.
Okay, we can do voice vote.
All right, just, we got it.
Oh, you got it?
You don't get to vote. And that passes unanimously. We will adjourn to executive session where we will return at approximately 5:45 for the Simus showcase and then start the meeting, the regular meeting, or reconvene the regular meeting at 6.
Do we get to make one?
They're showing us how to do it, so.
That would be amazing.
Planning.
No,
I haven't done that for a good 30-something.
I know. Like, that's so fun.
Patrick, nice to meet you. Yes, I've heard your name floating around. Kyle and Robert had mentioned last and stuff, so looks like you're the man of the new buildings and stuff, huh?
Yeah, I do all the big projects.
Yes, that's fun, that's fun. I come from Fowler, same district as Robert did, so we have a lot of the older schools.
Oh, yeah.
So actually coming to a district that's just 80 years old, and to have new schools, it's kind of like surreal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of real estate like how they have out there, because there's a ton of fields and stuff, right?
Yeah.
You just build wherever they get the lot of that, but here you kind of have to like shift the school to the.
Yeah, it's true. It's a
Yeah.
lot different. I worked about 10 years out in Glendale Elementary.
Okay.
So big field, some players, old schools.
I got just getting gobbled up by subdivisions and stuff.
I gotta make phone calls too.
It is really, really, Phoenix in general has really grown. Well, it was good chatting with you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, for sure.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yes, they are.
Did Lori tell you I spent all the bond money?
You did? You spent it all?
I did, and I'm so excited, Patrick, what you're going to do with it.
I get paid out of that, I think. So if you spend it all, I won't be here.
The new Rose Lane is going to be beautiful. Beautiful. I'm
Fantastic.
so excited. You want to go to Pittsburgh and see the school we want to model it after?
I can. It's pretty good. I'm not an Eagles fan, so. That's Philadelphia. Pittsburgh. Still. I know.
Steelers and these are so close to each other. Like there's nothing across the water. That goes through Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah. I used to fly in there like once a week.
Oh, really? They partnered with the Children's Museum, and it's just an incredible space.
I'm curious, who was the architect, do you know?
I do know because I took a picture of his name and title so that we could follow up with them.
Because the old firm I worked for did a lot of schools in that area. Allentown, South Whitehall Township.
Oh, it was the designer, Canon Design. I would assume they're an architectural firm.
I don't know.
He was one of the presenters. The hypothesis, by emulating children's museums, elementary schools can be compelling, relevant, engaging, and successful. And their philosophy was when the kids go on field trips to the children's museum, they're excited, they're energetic, the walls are interactive for the kids, but when they go to school, they're and so they built interactive walls, like where we have the collaborative spaces. They did like pegboards so the kids and the teachers could move the pegs and put up whatever they want. Like they weren't locked into a frame or
Okay.
what they needed to do. Then they built this amazing, instead of a stairwell, they built this ramp. So now
We're ready for Ramona, Barb, and Lori.
They can finish up the last.
Look at us on time.
I forgot to open up the online board. That's why I Oh. So that's why I ordered. Now I know, and now I think that's the hurdle I gotta get over.
There's always one thing you forget, especially when it's happening right now. That's okay, no worries. I see that you reported it.
Yeah, Robert said just to kind of start it, just kind of let it go. The only thing is that because you guys are out of the executive session, do I just resume the board meeting instead? Like, do I take
At 6.
Oh,
At 6.
so at this point, we just kind of wait, and just kind of do our thing.
Yeah, so what's going to happen now is that Dr. Karen and the board are going to come out those for a minute and talk to a teacher, and then we'll be good to go. So we're out early, so and start the meeting before 6 because we've already notified the public that it's going to be at 6, so we can't start before 6. You can go live.
Awesome. All right. Well, then that'll work. Well, I'm gonna run upstairs, just drop off those Chromebooks, and then I'll circle back. Did you want me to raise the screen? Are you good with that?
No, I think we're good now because the students will be staying over there. We won't have any little ones over here, so yeah, we're good.
Well, I'll circle back then. Thanks. You're welcome. Sorry.
Yes.
Kinship is equity, and they are amazing.
Oh, yeah?
And my mother would like to have more of them, so she let me know. Yes, I would.
Where you can get some?
Yes, of those same eggs.
Out of my backyard.
Oh, they're yours.
Yes. I have my chicky babes.
I feel like you must have special chickens. We had, my mother didn't, but my great grandmother had eggs, and I do not remember them tasting that delicious.
Really? You've noticed a difference, huh? Because I was, well, well, I grabbed something for you over here.
Okay, it's on now.
Case is ready to begin.
Sorry, Danielle. I muted the podium mic because it was capturing some audio.
Oh yeah, that's okay.
Good. I think things are gonna start going pretty quick.
Are you or I, whoever gets there first, will have to remember to unmute that. We'll see.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. It's alright. I was just checking in.
Oh yes, but you were choosing the
So Anna sent me the Google form. I sent that to my staff.
for now, right?
For preschool.
For preschool, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, I'll send that out to you, you have them, and then our, I just review it, or I put it together for ours, that, yeah, I see how that works.
It's completely up to the schools.
they're not certified. That's the problem. They're teachers, they're not certified teachers. That's why we all can put them under Shiny Star because they're not certified. They're not typically certified. Always get somebody. I think if we're just doing certified things.
But like, I'm a teacher.
I don't think so. I think it was. It was. I mean, it's just easier. Nice, you know, be it. I don't. This isn't that. It's just. I saw that on my calendar and I'm like, oh, why are you thinking that? Right? All right, thank you, Danielle.
I loved how
Don't you think?
because
Yeah. And I love having the real estate attorney there. She
myself and
In this store? Okay.
you guys are so funny. All of you. You're like, no, no, no. I'll do it myself.
I have the power.
goodness. That was like sodas and churros and Star Wars drinks. Exactly. The little milk and stuff.
Was that their first time at Disneyland?
You, it's actually. He graduated with his master's. So he works right now.
I hadn't even known like those jobs existed.
So he was asking how the jobs are going.
right feet right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, parents, if you could take a seat for just a moment, we will start the meeting, and we would like to have the kids who would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance in just a moment. So if you take a seat and so we can reconvene the meeting, I'd appreciate it. You do realize I'm having you sit down, and the first thing we're going to do is stand up, but that's, you know, that's your government at work. All right. All right. I'd like to reconvene this regular meeting of the Madison Elementary School Board. We just finished our executive session, so next after that, we did the Simus Elementary School Showcase, which was phenomenal. We all got a new bracelet out of it. And with that, I would like to invite the Madison Simus students up here, and if you would, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
There it is.
There it is. Go ahead. Put your hand over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Excellent job. Next up on our agenda are presentations and recognitions. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'm very excited to introduce, do we have Miss Sierra tonight to do You Make a Difference, or is it Miss Andrews?
Anna's here.
Is Miss Andrews here? There she is. It's so crowded. Miss Andrews is going to lead us off with You Make a Difference in Shining Star.
All right. And Classroom Teachers Association and Madison Administration to recognize the certified and classified staff who truly demonstrate Madison's vision of inspiring passion for learning and leading in an ever-changing world. Tonight's first You Make the Difference Award recipient is Rita Atkinson. We just heard Rita's fabulous speech. I would be happy to repeat it again if you'd like.
We don't have that much time at the meeting,
I could read it a little
but you're
slower.
welcome to. You can summarize it.
Rita is fabulous. She jumps on board with everything, and she's been around for a long time, and we'd love to keep her. Thank you, Rita. Can you come here?
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going high tech tonight. There's a microphone here, so when.
Somewhere in the vicinity?
Yes.
Oh, I like it. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank my family and my text chain for coming, even though I didn't know anything about it, and all my colleagues and my wonderful students. It's really an honor, and I appreciate it very much. And being surprised. It's hard to surprise me.
Anybody else know?
My family has come out to the audience. Yes, yes, I love them dearly. They show up at everything. You can't get rid of us.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And tonight's second You Make the Difference Award recipient is Natalie Saxon. Profe, please be patient with me on this one. Okay. Natalie Saxon, Profe Saxon, as she is known to her students, epitomizes that teacher that everyone remembers from school. A little quirky, firm but fair, colorful, and a whole lot of fun. If teachers were given super puntos, like Profe students are given when they are doing an exceptional job, Natalie would be getting them daily. The best we can do is award her the You Make the Difference Award, which she has earned with flying colors. As an international baccalaureate campus, we are always trying to foster the risk-taking of all of our students. So when a teacher decided to take the risk of a deskless classroom, we were excited and intrigued. It was not without its growing pains in the first year it was instituted, but she was always seeking feedback and was hungry for ideas on how to authentically teach a second language to middle school students, who admittedly are a very tough audience. But now that year 2 is in full swing, even the students are fully invested in the power of learning language with the freedom of 0 desks. To enter this deskless classroom, one is required to say a secret Spanish phrase. Each one is tailor-made for the events of the week or the lesson of the day. This week's is Buenas Suertes, good luck in English. Once inside your Spanish learning, Natalie, tú marcas la diferencia todos los días, mind is blown away by what you see and hear. Students playing games like La Loteria, or Guess Who in Spanish, as they are working on projects like Dia de los Muertos, Ofrendas, or creating animated videos. Displays of students are on the glass walls and shared space whiteboards. Outside of class, Profe does an advanced extension club called Club de Español, where students discuss current events, social sciences, and other Spanish-speaking countries and their customs, all in Spanish. Teaching in the classroom aside, Profe helps the campus in other ways as well. She is our dedicated Monday morning announcements reader. Profe has given out more positive office referrals than any other teacher on campus. And she, along with Cheyenne Mason, is also our spelling bee coordinator. She sang her heart out at our annual Meadows Got Talent show last spring. And to top it all off, she even reads her emails, which is a rare feat for busy teachers. Natalie es muy talentosa. Ella es un tesoro. In other words, she is talented. She is a treasure. Profe is awesome and makes a difference in the lives of Meadows students every day.
I would love to do that.
Just when I say things.
Thank you, that was so beautiful.
Thank you very much. Do I
You get to go through, yeah.
Thank you very much. It's such an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good job. Thank you so much. Oh, okay.
Can I hold your flowers?
Yes, please hold my phone. Okay, yes.
Put them by you.
You like this one? Well, thank you so much for those beautiful words. I could feel they're really heartfelt from the school. Thank you, Anna, for reading them. And I just want to say thank you to my mom for being here. I feel very honored to be a part of a district that makes every effort to celebrate their teachers, especially those who are taking risks. And I want to say thank you to our principal, Katie Clark, who when I said, I would like to use a deskless classroom, she said, I'll say yes to whatever you say, which is really remarkable. And to Assistant Principal Amber Sherman, who's here and who gave me these beautiful flowers. Yeah, I want to say thank you for being so open-minded and welcoming me and letting me try all of these new things. And I do just want to say that on the day that I was surprised was one of those days where you're like, students, why don't you work on this worksheet now? And then, of course, that was the day when they went, I was like, I'm always on! I think I barely had mascara on, but thank you very much. Right? So thank you very much. Thank you.
And tonight's Shining Star Award recipient is Laurel Moran. For over 15 years, Laurel Moran has served as the attendance clerk for Madison Simus. The support and care that Laurel demonstrates each day at work makes her an invaluable member of the Sinus community. Laurel is a Renaissance woman, mastering any responsibility or task she is given. As one of the first people greeting people at the school, we depend on Laurel to show off her sparkling smile and make a positive connection with each and every person she meets. She rises to the occasion and is a true shining star at Simus. Laurel is always willing to lend a hand wherever needed and consistently finds opportunities to help our students succeed. Laurel supervises the crosswalk in our parking lot, welcoming each student on campus with a smile. One of Laurel's most admirable qualities is her commitment to knowing each student and parent that walks through our doors. She greets every student by name, setting the tone for a positive and welcoming atmosphere that embodies the spirit of Simus. Once she completes her attendance responsibilities in the morning, Laurel jumps into the cafeteria and playground to support the supervision of students during lunch and recess. In the cafeteria, Laurel identified an opportunity to institute a recycling program to minimize waste. She has since educated students on how to reduce, reuse, and recycle across our campus. Sometimes students need a positive adult to start their day, check in periodically, and have reflective conversations with at school. As a check and connect and check in and check out mentor, Laurel provides our students with daily pep talks and mini skill building sessions. These interactions ensure that students feel supported, valued, and heard. Each month, Laurel also takes new students on monthly tours to teach our PBIS expectations around our campus to ensure they are set up for success. We know that the most important element of a school experience is making it through our front doors each day on time. Laurel has been instrumental in helping our school address the critical issue of chronic absences. Through her meticulous creation of detailed reports, generation of attendance letters for families, and direct communication with families when students are absent, Laurel has helped our school decrease our chronic absence rate each month. Laurel Moran is more than an attendance clerk. She is a mentor, an advocate, and a key member of our school community. Laurel's dedication and service to Madison Simus School are a testament to her character. Thank you, Laurel, for being our shining star.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. My sinus people. You're my sinus people. Thank you. Oh, got it. Yeah. Got it. Thank you. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Oh my God, put that thing down. Well, this is my second one, and it's been a while, but you guys have the best timing for the worst hair days ever. Okay? Right? She was worksheet teacher, and I was like, oh my God,
You've got to be kidding me. Anyway, thank you so much. I just want to thank my family. It is because my wonderful husband does what he does that I get to do what I absolutely love. Because, I get to hang out with kids all day. Love it, love it, love it. Like them the most. I like you guys. I like the little ones the best. Thank you. Thank you.
And our second Shining Star Award recipient is Christine Goodfarb. To understand why Christine Goodfarb is the Shining Star from Madison Meadows, you have to hear a story from the summer before the school year began. District officials brought administrators together to discuss the changes and how discipline would be reported. Thinking she was advocating for all personnel, Amber Sherman spoke up, saying it seemed like a large amount of work. And upon returning to campus from the meeting, she was ready to commiserate with Christine. I already do that, Christine said, of the large amount of work that Amber complained about. You already do that? Amber asked. Yeah, I already do that. That is really the theme of Christine Goodfarb. She should print it on a shirt. Classified Site Council Rep. Already do that. Discipline Records and EduClimber. Already do that. Athletic Secretary. Already do that. Registering new students, answering parent emails and phone calls, staying on top of student records, writing the monthly Meadogram, organizing quarterly front office reflection meetings, coordinating campus tours, monitoring community group campus use through Facilitron, filling in as backup nurse, monitoring lunch recess, hosting staff get-togethers. You guessed it, Christine already does it. Christine personifies hard work and dedication. If we have an idea that needs input or ask for her help, her follow-up is immediate. More oftentimes than not, we find that she has already taken steps to solve a potential problem without having to be asked. Christine is one of our most dedicated RAM family members. She frequently stays late to help with athletics and award ceremonies. She attends all PTM and spirit events, and she comes in early to set up staff breakfasts. However, she also brings levity and joy to the front office by decorating for the holidays and dressing up for spirit days and Halloween. There are a bunch of ways we can say that Christine is awesome. She's a gem. She's the bee's knees and the cat's meow. And because she works at a middle school, we want to honor the updated vernacular that teens use. So we'll say she's straight fire. Is totally legit and lit. But above all else, she is a true shining star.
Thank you, everyone. My oldest, who's here, started kindergarten in 2002. I jumped into this community with both feet. It really is a village, and it's a small town, a small community in a big city. And I've really made my home here. I found myself lost about 4 years ago when I got laid off from a company I'd worked for 29 years. And my home was Madison, and it was my safe place. And I really found a home here, and my coworkers make it a joy to come to work every day. We really have fun. And I love working with the parents, the students, the teachers, the staff. There are many, many shining stars at Meadows. So I feel really humbled with this nomination and this award. So thank you.
These guys are great too. They're all right.
Next up, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Guerin.
Thank you, President Holcomb, Vice President Gresham, board members, cabinet, and guests. A sincere thank you to the Madison community for supporting the Madison School District bond and maintenance and override. The current voting results show us passing at over a 63% voter approval rating. Continuing the current 15% M&O override will maintain programs that have been in place with prior years' override approvals. This funding supports the operation of the school district, such as salaries, curriculum, student, and staff support. The authorization of the bond permits the district to issue bonds to proceed with funding safety, security, school facilities, efficiency, and modernization projects. We truly appreciate your support. Please know these funds will have a substantial impact on the quality instruction we provide for our students and our ability to compensate our talented staff. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I want to express my gratitude to Deputy Superintendent Lori Garvey and her team for all of their hard work to ensure the bond and M&O were presented to the voters. Thank you to Madison advocates for helping our community stay informed during election season. A special thanks to Stephanie Hendricks, who led the advocates' effort. We will honor the advocates at a future board meeting. Your work is so important to the Madison community, and we are so very grateful. Join the Madison Center for the Arts in partnership with the Madison Education Foundation and attend an immersive art experience this Friday, Artrageous. Pair the show with a pre-show VIP experience on the patio. Check out the Madison Center for the Arts website for more information. I hope to see you there. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to thank Madison voters for all of those who turned out. We had one of the highest turnouts in Maricopa County for this election. I want to thank everyone who reached out with questions, regardless of how you voted. It's really wonderful to have so many people participating and asking questions of board members and of our district, just showing how much they really care about our schools. So thank you for that. I wanted to give a shout out to our schools who had several of them had Veterans Day events. I know of at least a couple that had flag raising ceremonies and had essay contests, and just thought they did a wonderful job at those schools to recognize our veterans and thank them for their service. Also want to recognize that tis the season for all the PTO fall fundraisers and events going on campus. I know at my kiddos' campus they had a great trunk or treat. I know there were several like events of fall festivals and trunk or treats and the like going on, and want to give a shout out to all the parents and families who help make all of that possible to really build a stronger Madison community. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Kazi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to also echo my gratitude to Madison taxpayers. Thank you for your support, but most critically, thank you for support of public education. It's for me and my family, and I think for our whole community, we see the value in the Madison District and public education in general, and how it supports our economy, our democracy, and making our country and our state strong, as well as our special North Central community. Also wanted to just share a little information on the download that tickets for Outrageous will be a 2-for-1 deal starting tomorrow. So if you have not purchased your tickets yet, you have now a really great reason to purchase them, because for the price of one ticket, you'll receive 2. So hope to see you there on Friday. It should be a very fun event. The weather should be lovely, and a great way to support the Madison Education Foundation, which supports our students. I wanted to let the board know that I will be running for the Secretary of the Arizona School Board Association Board of Directors. Yes, yeah, I know. At their December meeting, so I wanted to make the board aware of that. We shall see what the results are. I wanted to thank everyone that was involved in the outstanding Discover Madison tour. Incredible participation. Got to meet some prospective kindergartners, which was truly the highlight of the event. And I think that everybody did an outstanding job, from the administrators at the school sites to obviously the district administrators coordinating the program, Jackie especially, obviously, for all the hard work. Keisha and Karen and I think we had a lot of fun. And we're exhausted, frankly, at the end, because there were a lot of really wonderful questions. And then finally, I wanted just to share that the Madison Education Foundation and the Madison Center for the Arts had a very productive strategic planning session today. Thank you to everyone who made that session possible. I feel like we're making great progress, and there will be a future board report so that you will all be updated on where we're going and what that strategic plan looks like. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Spear.
I'm also going to thank our taxpayers and our voters and our families for putting their trust in us and voting yes so overwhelmingly on the override and the bond. My very first election that I ever voted on, I actually am a product of Madison Schools, was a Madison override and a Madison bond. It was very important to my parents that I vote in that election, and that tradition exists not just in my family, but in families across our district. We have a very strong district and a strong support for Madison Schools that goes back generations. And I want to say thank you to all of those generations for voting yes on this override and this bond at such an overwhelming mandate kind of level. I believe that 63% is the highest yes vote Madison has ever received on an override, at least to my historical knowledge, now being one of the elders on this board. So I just want to say thank you so much for that, and also say that I am looking forward to being the spelling bee pronouncer at Madison Simus in a couple of weeks. I will be practicing the words in advance to make sure I don't mess up on whatever words are on the list, because it's very super secret. I don't get access to them until the night before. So thank you, and I just have so much gratitude to our taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grissom.
Thank you. I will add to Ms. Spears' comment that my oldest, who of course went through Madison, just turned 18 right before the election, so he got to vote on this one his first time. So we're continuing that tradition. And I apologize for missing our meeting last month. Cross country is now over, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. But our students did very well. We placed, almost all our schools placed in the cross country conference championships. And I went to a few of the Halloween and fall festivals. I went to Rose Lane last Thursday. It was amazing. I was just blown away. The PTO there just does, that was a lot of work. And the whole community came out, and it was really, really great to see. And yes, the Discover Madison tour, I got to fill in for Ms. Spears, so thank you. It was great. It was fun. I really liked holding the microphone on the bus and talking. I talked like the whole time. It was great. What else? I will be, we had our PTO luncheon. Was that last week? It's been a busy month. So that's always good to get everyone together for that, and they all work so hard, all our PTOs, to support our teachers and our students, and it's a great community resource. And I think that's it. I will also be at Artrageous on Friday, so see you there.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to repeat the thanks to our community and everyone who voted for the bond and override. But I can never let it go without the use of the word override is such a misnomer. It's what the community voted for was to provide the funding necessary for Madison to do what it does. It's not that we can't make our budget. It's none of that. It is the fact that that funding is what helps make Madison Madison. Same thing with the bonds. Madison would not be the school district it is without the community support and the financial capabilities that come with getting those bonds and having the exceptional facilities that we have that are made necessary. And while I'm very, very happy that Madison did it and many school districts did, we also have to feel for those who weren't able to pass their bonds and for the kids and the families in those areas. I'm going to be being a judge at the MTA spelling bee tomorrow. You are a much braver person than I am because they won't let me mispronounce anything. Well, that's what and so I get to be a judge, but Sarah is an excellent pronouncer. The PTO luncheon was great. It's always good to see the people get together. I had an opportunity to go and participate in the park. I love our schools. And they were starting a chess club, and we started talking about what would make that unique, and I was able to donate a lawn chess set to them so that they can go out there at recess, and hopefully that'll help inspire more of the kids to get involved in playing chess. And I will also be at Outrageous. I'm really looking forward to it, but I paid full price for my tickets. Now I'm feeling that I should have waited. But I hope you come and bring your family to it. It is a very family-friendly, very engaging and awarded show. It's hard to explain, but it is going to be a really great evening. Huh? Oh, yeah, and the VIP event before, not only can you can get dinner and a show, actually, because the VIP will have small plates and that beforehand and an intermission. It has it all, so I hope to see as many people there as possible. And with that, we'll go on to our next item, which is our consent agenda. Does any member of staff or the board want to remove anything from the consent agenda for separate vote or discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Gresham. Please vote. Did everyone vote?
Mr. Holcomb, can we take a voice vote? Oh,
Sure.
There we go.
All those in, I just showed up. Technology is wonderful, isn't it? And that passes unanimously. Next up is the call to the public. Ms. Humphries, do we have any calls to the public?
We do not have any calls to public.
All right, thank you. Next up is information items, the state assessment update, the A through F letter grades 2022 through 2023. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Marshall, who will introduce our Director of Assessment.
Thank you, President Holcomb, members of the board, members of cabinet, and guests. As you know, earlier in the year, the principals presented their school integrated action plans. They had access to the state achievement data as well as other data sets used to help them determine the primary needs for their campuses for that school integrated action plan. What we're going to see tonight, now that the results from the state assessment are now public. They've gone through that period of review and that period of appeal. We'll go through and present how the state takes the achievement data and uses that to create a formula to determine school labels. And to share that information is our Director for Research and Evaluation, Jason Piankowski.
President Holcomb, members of the board, Dr. Guerin, cabinet and guests, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Today I'll be reviewing the A through F formula as well as providing some insight as to how things were in the past, how they were this past year, and then how they may impact us in the future. Here's a general breakdown of the A through F letter grade accountability formula. There are some percentages assigned to different groupings. 50% of the formula currently is weighted on growth, 30% is weighted on proficiency, 10% on English language learner progress, and then 10% on a kind of cornucopia of acceleration and readiness indicators. And we'll get into how that is potentially informative, but then also misleading in a little bit as we get to that. To qualify for an A, school has to have a minimum of 84 of those points that they're eligible for. To qualify for B, it's 72 points. You may not have noticed, but previously those cut scores were different. They're a little bit higher. So this year we have slightly lower cut scores. They took those cut scores and rounded them down a little bit. So it was a little easier for some schools to qualify for an A, qualify for B, qualify for a C, so forth and so on throughout the state. But these cut scores are anticipated to be the same cut scores that will be used for next year, barring any silly interactions. Proficiency. So proficiency is a major component of the A through F formula. It's currently weighted at 30% of the formula. And one thing is to consider with proficiency, passing the assessment, a student typically needs to perform between the 60th and 70th percentile in a national normed assessment. That's a difficult assessment. And so when we think about proficiency, we want to make sure that we're looking at the scope of proficiency. What's a highly proficient student? What's a proficient student, a partially proficient, and a minimally proficient student? The formula weights those appropriately or weights those accordingly to say even though a student hasn't passed the assessment, we still receive points for that student because that student might be an average student across the country. They're still performing at an average rate, so we want to acknowledge that in the formula and be aware of that. Additionally, another component that changed was a percent tested multiplier, which may have aided a few schools across the state in adding a point or so to their proficiency indicator, because we are very good in Madison at making sure everybody who's supposed to be tested is tested. We have incredibly high test rates. If a student shows up to us during a test session from another school district, our schools and sites are very exceptional at making sure we collect data on that information so that we know where that student is at. And that is the intention of that process, to weight schools accordingly. The other component, which is a huge part of the formula, is SGP, student growth percentiles. This is a conversation that we've had previously at our school presentations, where we're looking at how a student grows in comparison to another student. Or other students like them in the same grade level, the same general performance, same starting spot, and how did they grow in comparison to other students like them? How did they do that in mathematics, and how did they do that in English language arts? They grouped those kids into tiers: high growth, 0 to 33, middle, 33 to 66, and then high growth, 66 to 99 percentile when we look at that. A caveat to that is different types of growth receive different weightings. So a minimally proficient student that has high growth can earn a school 2 points. A highly proficient student that has high growth can earn a school 1 point. So in a sense, with the current formula, if let's say I have 60% of my students that are minimally proficient, I can, and a third of my kids have low growth, third have average, third have high, I have access to more points than maybe a school that has 3% of their students minimally proficient. So that's an important thing to think about with student growth percentiles and how schools receive those points, because we're going to be talking about some changes. Next, we have English language learners, where we look at English language learners, how they progress through the AZELA assessment. This is not the AASA assessment. This is the AZELA assessment. 5% is for creating proficiency on the AZELA assessment, and then 5% of your formula is through increasing the performance level of a student. Currently, the statewide average for proficiency on the AZELA assessment is 11.54%. And if you score above that, then you earn 5 points. If you're close to that, you receive some points. And then to the cornucopia, where we have a bunch of different indicators rolled into this, where schools have the ability to qualify for different things depending on their school type. The more grade levels your school covers, the more options you have for points. The more diverse your school is, the more opportunities you have for points. Mathematics, we look to increase highly proficient or decrease minimally proficient in grades in the middle school grades, and in grade 3, we look to decrease our minimally proficient. Chronic absenteeism, which I think was already mentioned twice in the meeting, and we haven't even gotten to the A through F conversation, but that's an important indicator. Inclusion of special education students, and then subgroup improvement. That looks at how you did last year and then how you did this current year, just compares you to your previous performance. Here's all the different weightings of those formulas that you can earn points, and you can see there's many different opportunities for schools to earn points. There's also bonus points for science. What's recently different is that the science assessment moved from 4th grade to 5th grade. And so in our schools, that impacts the elementaries because they no longer have access to those points, where now it puts a lot of the reward for success on middle schools because they test their students in 5th grade and in 8th grade. And then lastly, there's also an additional bonus point that we're eligible for, which is the rate of special education students in our schools. So if your school has a high population of students with special needs, then there's an acknowledgement that that is a more dynamic system that should be rewarded, so that schools continue to opt into that. Here's our big matrix of data and results from our A through F letter grades. The first column we'll see is 2022, and then the second column would be 2023. We have the school name, and then we have their results for each of those indicators for proficiency, growth, English, EL proficiency, acceleration, readiness. We have the weighting on that column. You can see it's 30% of the weight, and then also 30 points. And if you can scan across, you can see which of our schools came close to those 30 points, which of their schools were not as close with those 30 points. Growth, again, is 50 points. You can see which of our schools was closer to that. Typically, when we have a growth conversation, we're shooting for earning at least 45 of those 50 points, and I'll show you some information that'll help clarify that. EL proficiency is another one. You'll scan across and see how many of those 10 points our schools earned. There's an X in there. That means they did not have enough EL students to qualify for that indicator, and they didn't consider it a valid assessment. Currently, all of our schools right now do qualify for EL points coming into this year. Some of them are right on the cusp of not qualifying, and then that'll depend on what enrollment trends happen over the next few months. And then lastly, that acceleration readiness is in there, as well as the bonus points, our percent tested, and then at the bottom, our overall letter grade. So in thinking about this, we're going to start talking a little bit about strategies. One thing is we've got all these different students, and we're slicing and dicing the information in different ways. One thing is often schools want to get a list of students and say, hey, give me a list of students who didn't do well last year, and we're going to work with them, and we're going to make it better, and we're going to turn our school into this or into that. That's a strategy. It's typically a short view strategy, which doesn't produce long-term success. And so if we're focusing on one group of students or another group of students receiving what we need to help them continue to grow as well. Because you'll see that some kids who are minimally proficient found success and some kids didn't. And so why are some kids finding it and some are not? The caveat to that, except for those EL students, because we do have a list of those and we track them and we put them into special classes and we're compliant with our requirements to make sure that those students are receiving the support we have. We're assessing those EL students with our FAST program in elementary, and we're also getting those students into a Lexia program in the middle school to help them build their language acquisition skills. They're also working with targeted support teachers in the EL programs to make sure they're receiving the services that they need. And we're, even though a lot of the requirements have changed over the past few months, our teachers are really getting settled in and understanding those language acquisition strategies. And then another thing that we'll pivot into is talking about assessment and collecting information on students. That's an important thing, but we're not going to assess our way out of a problem and increase our scores by finding out repeatedly that we have students who are in the 30th percentile. We have to figure out what is the discrete skill that we need to start building on, looking at their math fluency, looking at their reading fluency, build those skills up, competed exposure to that to build their skills and help them move forward with what it is they need to do to have more complex understanding of our standards. Thinking about considerations, we mentioned how the cut scores had changed from the previous year. One of the key indicators for next year is for schools to maintain or improve their letter grade is going to be to earn those EL points. One of the reasons why I say that is because if we look at this graphic here, please take a second to look at that graphic. Please take note of how spread out the blue is on the 5 different graphs, how spread out the orange is on the 5 different graphs. See if you notice any patterns to those graphics. Okay, so one of the things I'd like to point out on this graphic is that you'll see that nobody's earning really below 20 points on growth. And so that's kind of a gimme. It's kind of hard not to earn those points just because of the way that system is. So if everybody's getting those 20 points and the cut scores are kind of based on a standard deviation and everybody's getting those points, it makes those other indicators more and more important. So that EL indicator that's supposed to be about 10% of the formula is now a much more significant part of that formula as far as deviating between are you an A or B, are you a B or a C. On this graphic too, what I wanted to talk about is how this is your proficiency scale on the horizontal bar going from left to right. And that's the 30 points that you can earn. So you can see how spread out schools are. We have some schools who are earning 5 of those 30 points, and then we have a bunch of schools who are bumping right up against that 30 max right here, where they're earning 30 out of those 30 points. This vertical scale here goes from 0 to 50. Those are the growth points that a school is able to earn. And so we can see most of those schools right here are not earning over 20 points. They're going from 0 to 50. And if you'll notice, in 2017, 2018, and 2019, there's not a lot of smashing. It's a very technical term of schools up here at the top. You'll notice they're not smashing up there, right? And especially those schools with lower proficiency. One of the reasons why that was happening is growth was calculated differently at that point. There was an additional component called student growth targets. Student growth percentiles are how are kids growing in comparison to other kids. Student growth targets are, is it enough to get you on track to be proficient by 8th grade? So thinking about that, it's a little harder for a middle school than an elementary to be on track. If you have a 7th grade student, that track could be very steep. And then thinking about looking at that 2022, 2023 schools, lots of schools went right up and were getting 50 points, 45 points, that maybe traditionally in prior accountability systems didn't quite earn those points to receive that A label. And you could see that blue band of schools sliding over where students who only had 15 of, or schools who only had 15 of those 30 points did earn an A label with their success. That's going to revert back this year when SGT comes back into the formula for many schools throughout Arizona. And that is this concept right here that I wanted to mention, which is the student growth targets, where students have to be on track to be proficient over a certain period of time. And you could see how that slope is different for the makeup of a school. If you have many proficient and highly proficient kids, many of your kids are going to be on track. If you don't serve a population of students with those needs, then many of your students might not be on track. So EL points is a big indicator to think about, as well as Tier 1 interactions with students. I think that's going to be a primary driver for many of our schools. How are we working with students that are partially proficient and proficient in mathematics in middle school and help them demonstrate high growth? How are we going to create engaging classrooms for them? How are we going to make them have good positive social connections at school so that they're engaged in their learning environment on a regular period of time? Chronic absenteeism is another big indicator that we look at that I think is going to be important to our conversation. The more students show up to our classrooms, the more they participate. Chronic absenteeism is missing 10% of the school year or more. That's a lot. If we think about, we had about 700 kids last year who were chronically absent, times at least 18 days. That's a lot of days of missed instruction, and almost all of our schools actually increased and improved our chronic absenteeism rate from the previous year. Making sure we continue to focus on student growth targets, trying to earn as many of those growth target points as possible will help us retain our A or B labels or increase to A or B labels, and then focusing on the third grade move on when reading scores for those students as they're rolling up with all the training that we're putting into elementary schools, as well as looking at those minimally proficient 8th grade students, making sure that we're helping those students because they had quite a few years of interrupted learning that's coming through the cycle. We see the 5th graders from 4 years ago are very different than our current 5th graders now just because of the stream of instruction that they've been exposed to. So with that, another representative, just to kind of show you how things changed a little bit. This is again 2017 to 2023 and the number of A schools, B schools, C schools, and D schools, how that varied over time. You can see those D schools dramatically decreased. You can see the changes in A's and B's as well as they removed a key component of that formula. And then I showed you that one. And then here's a distribution of our Madison schools over time. You can kind of see how that proficiency has played out as well as that student growth percentiles have played out and impacted our schools. Whoopsie. I messed it up, Miss Humphrey. Sorry, I meant to go to the next page. Yep, oh, there we go. Thank you. Should I stop?
We're both navigating the mouse.
There you go, thank you. And with that, can I answer any questions?
Ms. Kazi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a few questions. My first was, so what's the rationale for the A point spread to be 16 versus B and C in like the 12 range? Like what did the State Board of Education say about that?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
They're like,
I
it
missed
just
a
seems
piece.
like a much wider like point spread for A's, 16 versus 12 for B's and C's. I would love to hear what, and I suspect I know the answer, but would love to hear.
There we go, thank you. The rationale was they looked at the distribution of scores and created a standard deviation above and below. And
Okay.
whatever that was, that's how they tended to apply it. And the F label is produced by receiving a D 3 years in a row.
Okay.
So they kind of cut it up into four pieces.
Okay. And then on Meadows, obviously Meadows is just on the cusp. So MTA did not have enough special ed students to be given points for EL, so that just basically gets taken out of their formula. Meadows did. I assume it's a very small number that we're dealing with.
10.
And do we know coming up next year, does Meadows still qualify? Yeah. And so just out of curiosity, which of the 5 points, where did we see the growth in EL for Meadows?
For Meadows in EL, it was, I think it was a mix of a few. You don't have to earn 0 or 5 points. You can earn, I believe they earn 3 and 2 for proficiency in EL. I should know that. I apologize.
I think Ms. Clark has her school data, so she.
Jason, I think your numbers were correct. The 3 and the 2 is mixed.
Thank you.
And then I think we had a lower end count as well this year coming up, so our data will be a little different as well.
Okay.
Yep, I think we're right on the cusp depending. One thing about this, the way the formula is written, is that students that withdraw from the EL program because their families don't feel it's the most appropriate environment for them are still included in the EL formula. So they're included in that denominator, although they've withdrawn from the services of that program.
Of course they are. And then my final question is, for the growth to target, I know at one time there was talk about that persistence piece, right? The longer we have them, we should be measured on how we're growing them. Is that going to be a consideration? And I don't know how you would build that into the formula, but I know that was a deep conversation.
Member Kasi, thank you for the question. There is a component in the proficiency, which looks at, it's a term in there where they evaluate our proficiency in a few different ways. I didn't go into the many different ways they slice it and dice it, but they look at something called stability proficiency, where they weight students who are with you for 3 years, 3 consecutive years, more heavily than students who are with you for 2 years, more heavily than they weight for students with 1 year. For most of our schools, we found that there wasn't a ton of difference between those percentage outcomes, but for some we did. And oftentimes, students who are with us longer, they showed higher levels of proficiency for 3 years than 2 years than 1 year. A very rare occasion did any grade level show a higher level of performance for just a student who was with us for 1 year. And so for a third grade student, that means they were with us for third grade, second grade, and first grade. They include them that way, even though they're not taking the state assessment.
So persistence is kind of baked in. So for the schools where it does seem to, the longer you get Madison, the closer we see them to the targets, do we see that, is there a trend? Is it in our Title I schools? Can you give any additional information on where that tends to be more likely than less likely?
I would say from looking at it, and this is a generalization, at our title schools, when they're enrolled with those schools for longer periods of time, we see higher levels of proficiency and performance with those students. I believe when we go to our schools with lower levels of poverty, that difference minimizes.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Ms. Gresham.
Thank you. Couple of questions. One is, do you happen to know just how many EL students we have district-wide or in total?
We have close to 400, or close to 300, about 278 students right now who have an EL need. And then I think we have about 30, I believe it's about 30 who have withdrawn from the program. So it's right around 300 who will be included in the formula.
And they're included in the formula the year they withdrew, but then, so then next year they would not be, because they didn't withdraw that year?
Until they demonstrate proficiency, they're included.
So they're included like the rest till they have proficiency, okay. My one other question was also, which schools have the special, do all our schools have special education services, or do they all have the bonus percentage component?
Not all of our schools receive the special education bonus point. Part of the rationale for that is it has to do with your ratio over school and what type of programs you might service there. Currently, we had 3 schools, that did not qualify for the special education points. And they're bigger schools, and so that ratio didn't quite meet the threshold for being higher than the state average. And so, but many of our other schools did qualify that and did also qualify in, I didn't go into it in great detail, but it is an important indicator in the acceleration readiness, the inclusion rate for many of our schools, where they're included in the least restrictive environment. Many of our schools qualified for those points as well.
Okay. And does that all show on the big graph of data?
Some of it does. I ran out of room.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't tell, because some are mixed in, I think it's mixed in with the bonus points down there at the bottom.
Yes, I believe that one's called out specifically, the special education, and that just looks at the number of kids regardless of what their environment is, and that's your numerator, and then your denominator is how many kids are at your school.
And if they're just receiving any services at all.
Yeah, so do you have a lot of special education students at your school?
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? No. I want to thank you. We really do appreciate the in-depth analysis, and also the prediction of what is going to be important and what those numbers really mean. That is very helpful to us as we go forward and try and plan. Look to next year and beyond. So thank you very much.
Thank
you. Next up on our hit parade is Board policies first read. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, yes, a very exciting agenda item, board policies. So if it's all right with board president, I can do a quick summary of all of them, and this is a first read. Okay.
As you're doing the summary too, if there are things that are unique, we've done unique to Madison, please make sure you cover that
Absolutely. Thank
as
you.
well.
So our first policy is 9.1, policy BCB, board member conflict of interest. And we are recommending approval of the ASBA recommended language. And it states that the policy allows the school district to employ, including through a third-party contractor that provides services to the school district, any person who served as a member of the school district governing board during the preceding 2 years, only in a position that provides services directly to students. With the staff education shortage, this was of interest to provide some flexibility, especially to our rural districts who really have difficulty filling in for substitute teachers and that sort of thing. So I'm recommending approval on that policy. Policy 9.2 BDA, board organizational meeting. We're recommending approving changes and new language that includes flexibility to hold the organizational meeting anytime in January. Prior to that language, it was the organizational meeting had to be held the first 2 weeks of January. Not that we don't expect to do that anymore, but they're providing some flexibility and we appreciate that. The policy does remove the vice president language as this is optional. We would not change our practice of having a vice president. It just doesn't require, it's not required. It also provides language regarding changing the president of the board during the year if it was needed. So we are recommending approving the changes from ASBA on that one. 9.3, policy BE, school board meetings. We're recommending approval of additional language related to providing adequate seating at a board meeting, but it does not require a public body to relocate a meeting outside of the largest regular meeting room. It also adds language that Ms. Humphries has already complied with, related to public awareness of physical access to the meeting space. So when can people arrive at the meeting space? I'm not recommending added prescriptive meeting notice language to the policy. We have our own language that is very compliant, and we didn't feel the need to change that. So I'm not recommending that. Then we also have 9.4, policy BEDA, notification of board meetings. We're recommending approval of additional language that just says, except for a meeting through technological devices, the agenda and notice shall also include the time that the public will have physical access to space. And then the last one, 9.5, BEDB. I'm getting a lot of, practicing my letter recognition. We're recommending a language cleanup. This policy notes the requirement and the components of a meeting, but we don't think that we need to prescribe the order. So we did. Ms. Humphries worked really hard on this to make sure that it listed all the required components of a meeting, but that the board has some latitude in regards to the order. So that one, we recommended some changes, but not all of the changes. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments? Oh, yes, Ms. Corson.
Sorry, I just want to note real quick that on that last one that we do have call to public on there. It is not required by law, but we do have it on there. I just want to note that.
Thank you.
Unless there is seen that there are no comments or questions, unless there's any member of the board wants to pull it off, I would entertain having a motion to approve all these. We're just this first read. We don't have to prove anything.
No, we don't. It's first read.
You threw me off.
I did. I
Yeah.
apologize.
It's easy. It's easy to do. Excuse me. Excuse me. I need a bit of water. Next up are their action items and the lease agreement with Madison Island Prep. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Garvey to talk about a renewal for our lease agreement for Madison Highland Prep.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Guerin, and cabinet.
it's really difficult for me to believe that 10 years, it's been 10 years that we entered into an agreement with Madison Highland Prep. Madison Highland Prep is, of course, the high school that leases part of Madison Park from Madison School District. And we entered into a collaboration agreement, and that's truly what it's been over the past 10 years. And we've seen a lot of benefits of having Madison Highland Prep at Madison Park. And some of those benefits are just that it's another pathway for our students for high school. In addition, in conversations with them, just like where can it even go in the future, into offering high school classes to our students at Madison Park that are ready for that level of instruction. So the original collaboration agreement was for a 5-year term with an additional renewal of 5 years. So this marks the last year of that agreement. So tonight before you, we have the second amendment to the collaboration agreement, and it also is for an initial term of 5 years plus an extension of 5 years. If you also look at the second amendment, there were a couple things added as we rebuilt Madison Park that Madison Highland Prep did ask, and we allowed as long as they reimbursed us for it. And so that is within this amendment too, that they will be paying us for some modifications made per their request, so that none of our taxpayer funds were paid out there to make modifications to the building. And that is it. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Ms. Spear.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment, and that is thank you for seeing this through. It was very innovative of us to go into this kind of an agreement in 2014 by having a partnership with a charter school, and I just wanted to say thank you for your due diligence on following through with this lease agreement. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, Ms. Kazi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to make sure I am clear. So we know we have reached going over to park. I'm sorry, I'm having like brain moment. And so as part of this contract, I know you mentioned the ability for our middle school students to potentially be taking high school classes. Like, can you elaborate? I don't know just what that might look like, or like how that is either embedded in this, or at least what that looks like.
I can.
I think, Ms. Marshall, would you like to take that one?
Thank you, Ms. Causey and members of the board. I do believe it was embedded into the contract. Ms. Garvey could speak to that, but part of the reason for the move of the REACH program was to allow for the participation in high school classes for that high school credit. And the charter operator, Dr. Clark, has agreed and is looking forward to that participation. And so Casey George, our director for signature programs, will be coordinating that. But that was part of the intentional move of having the REACH program go to Madison Park.
Ms. Gresham.
Thank you. Just a quick comment, and I'm sure this makes it clear that we're voting on this, but I do get confusion from some families that Highland Prep is not a part of Madison School District. We do not. They're a separate entity, so some parents get confused. They think it's part of Madison, but it's not, as it's clear in the agreement. So just wanted to put that out there. Thanks.
Yeah, if I may, that under the Constitution, we're not allowed to operate a high school. But there's always been a want by the community to have an excellent high school that basically follows the excellence of the Madison School District. And this was an opportunity that came to us to have a high school that was the STEM. I know they're moving to STEAM now, finally, after 10 years. But to have a STEM school in a Title I school as well there, and it's been a perfect fit. And my understanding, if I'm not mistaken, 70% of the students who go to Madison Island Prep are Madison students.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's worked out very well. But we did take a lot of flack when we first did it from both sides, both the public schools and the charter side. So it's been a very successful partnership. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, so Ms. Causey moved and Ms. Thompson won the race for second. All those in favor, please, or everyone, please vote. And that passes unanimously. That brings us up to item 10.3, authorization to enter into a purchase agreement for real estate. What?
My goals.
What?
10.2, my goals.
Oh. We don't need that. That brings us to 10.2, superintendent's school year 23-24 goals. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'd like to share my goals for the school year. I'd first like to thank cabinet for collaborating on these goals and for doing much of the work together hand in hand to accomplish them. They are absolutely an amazing team, and I appreciate them every day. So I aligned the goals with the evaluation instrument that Madison has for the superintendent. And I won't read everything, but I will be taking action steps to accomplish the goals, and I will articulate a proactive, future-focused approach of strategic planning that will ensure our long-term success. So I will not only focus on accomplishing the goals this year, but will be thoughtful in what is best for the district in future years to come. So the first goal surrounding is, of course, student achievement, looking at increase in growth and proficiency scores. We heard from Mr. Pienkowski. We really have a tight pulse on this, and our schools, our principals are instructional leaders that really focus on optimizing instruction. So we're focusing on not only stellar Tier 1 instruction in the classroom, the best and first instruction in front of every student, but we're designing interventions in layers for students that need that. And we're systemizing that across the district so that we can progress monitor to see if we don't want to wait for the standardized test score to know if we're making progress or not, because if a student is not making progress, then we switch the intervention. So that systemization of that makes us really target our resources in a thoughtful way. We also want to use an equity lens regarding strategies, resources, or programs. It's not one size fits all in Madison, so we want to focus and target our support. We have each school has a school integrated action plan with goals related to student achievement, and Assistant Superintendent Marshall and her department, she supervises the principals, and she spends hours at schools. Every week she has school visits, and so she's very, very invested in the school integrated action plans, and we support as a district moving those forward. We have our new strategic plan and our SIMAT teams, Strategic Initiative Madison Action Teams, multiple tiered systems of support, and that again is providing the Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 support, not only with academics, but also with behavior. So this problem-solving group will work to look and see what's working in Madison. We can duplicate it. We can find out what's best out there with research and bringing it back to us. So what's great is that is made up of many stakeholders, and I will be focused on supporting that work. And we've heard, again, bringing up chronic absenteeism. That will be another focus of mine. The next is communication, really working hand in hand with Executive Director Guin, who is bringing just a lot of creative ideas and talent to the table. We want to streamline communication so that district and site level communication is easily accessible, consistent, predictable, and optimizes the user's experience. So we want parents to know where to find it, have a one-stop shop, and be very consistent with that and timely. So we're really working on that together. We're We're expanding our Interfaith Coalition and implementing School Connect, which is a way to bring the community into the schools and to have a relationship that we provide support to our community so they also feel like we provide value to them and they provide value to us. So those are things that we're really putting a lot of effort into coming out of COVID, because a lot of those relationships were there in the past and we have to rebuild them. We're also, with the communication department, optimizing the school tour process by establishing some consistency, some formalized outreach, and follow-up after tours. And we'll be creating and implementing an exit survey for families so we understand why they're leaving. It can inform our practice. Next is fiscal responsibility. We are optimizing student and program capacity at each site. How many students should be at each site? How much can the program handle? And we want to make sure we staff according to all of that. We're planning the creation of an early learning center, which is on the agenda, allowing for increased capacity at targeted sites. We will successfully relocate the middle school REACH program. We have a very big meeting about that this Thursday. And I want to thank Barb Marshall and Casey George for all their work on that. And then, of course, we have to strategically navigate fiscal challenges. Our ESSER funding, which was our federal support during COVID, ends at the end of next September. We always are experiencing some challenges with state funding. We anticipate less funding this year because of one-time money that has been spent. And there's also funding cliffs that the legislature may or may not take care of. So we have to have a very thoughtful approach for the future so that we can protect all of our investments. We are also very concerned with attracting and retaining highly qualified staff. We just celebrated some of our brightest staff members, and every staff member can make a student feel wanted and special at that school, at their schools, and we want to make sure that we're providing that for every student. And my last is safety and emergency preparedness. Lori Garvey and her team with Kyle D'Amato, they have done so much work in this area. We have an implementation of our updated emergency operations plans with a focus on physical safety of campuses, safety drills, and crisis protocols. We're responding to our safety audit which individualized different needs at different schools, that we are using our bond dollars to improve safety features of our schools. We're focusing on additional training for staff in the area of emergency response to build their confidence in how to handle those situations. We are also implementing an after-action reporting process to inform future responses. So should we have an incident or a threat, we always examine how we handled it, how we communicated, how we can improve our policies, practices, and procedures in the future in a thoughtful way. We need accurate, timely communication in emergency situations, and this has really been a growth area for us that I think we've made a lot of progress on. And I can't stress enough the effective use of proactive student-focused strategies. So when we have students that are hurting, we use our threat assessment protocol, our DESA assessment, and Lightspeed, which is a computer program that catches if a student is texting something concerning that we can support. So those proactive measures to catch when students need support before we have an emergency situation is so critical, and one I think that Madison it really is strong at. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Ms. Kazi.
I just wanted to say we've had robust conversations about these goals during our biweekly meetings with the superintendent, and I feel that these are a robust set of goals. They reflect not just the strategic plan, but I think conversations that this board has had with you over the course of your tenure here. I'm excited to see the implementation, and we're just thrilled that you're still here.
Any other comments or questions? No, I just two things quickly. One, these goals are really used to evaluate the superintendent at the end of the year, and a lot of times it's hard to get goals that you can measure or look at, but also are meaningful. And I think this is it does a good balance of that. I think it does give enough specificity that we can look at and say, okay, are we making advances here? But also gives the flexibility that we need. There's one part of it that you didn't emphasize that, in my view, is also very important that you have here. It's in the introduction of what you had, which is, in all areas, the superintendent will articulate a proactive, future-focused approach of strategic planning that will ensure our long-term success. I think that's right. The fact that it's we are being proactive, not responsive, and looking at the future and long-term for Madison, not just the next year. And so I also think that's a very important part of this. So, with that, I will, and this is procedural. We do need to take a vote on this. We do. Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's proposed performance goals as presented.
So moved. I'll second.
Moved by Ms. Spears, seconded by Ms. Gresham. Please vote. That passes unanimously. Now that brings us up to 10.3, authorization to enter into a purchase agreement for real estate. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, members of the board, cabinet, and guests. We are seeking approval of a letter of intent to authorize myself, the deputy superintendent, district counsel, and broker to negotiate a binding purchase agreement and to authorize us to execute the final form of a purchase agreement in order to acquire a building located at 1516 East Bethany Home. The letter of intent has been reviewed by legal counsel. Acquiring this building will enable us to expand some staff workspace, but most importantly, expansion of preschool programming. We have been struggling with the need of preschool programming for years in Madison and have been looking for a way to meet the community need. We have wait lists at several of our schools. For example, at Heights, we have wait lists for the Heights campus, yet we have developmental preschools taking up 4 or 5 classrooms there. I want to be very clear. We have no interest of moving current preschool programs that are feeding into their schools. We understand how beneficial that is to be able to attend the school that you're going to go into for kindergarten. But at Madison Traditional Academy, there is not room on that campus, and those preschools are already located at Park. So with the purchase of this building, we would be able to move them closer to MTA. We would open up space at Heights for the developmental preschool, and we could look at expanding our preschool programs in the future to add some additional 3-year-old classrooms where we have students on the wait list, and we simply don't have classroom space on our campus for them. So by having an early learning center hub to have some of this overflow, we would open up some space for additional elementary age students in the Madison community. The other thing we're excited about exploring is infant to 2-year-old programming, specifically to support some of our staff members for childcare. So I'm seeking approval for not only the letter of intent, but to also to negotiate a final contract. And Ms. Garvey and Patrick have been instrumental in all of this work, and I want to thank them. And of course, she's available for any questions.
Yeah. Any comments? Ms. Thompson.
I just wanted to emphasize that this potential purchase of this property makes financial sense. Not only would expansion of those preschool programs provide a service for the community, but also additional income in our community education programs. The expansion of space at Park to build a building is ridiculously expensive right now. To be able to invest in a piece of real property that's already been developed, the minor changes we'll need to make to upgrade this this for our use make fiscal sense, and if at some point in the future we didn't need this facility anymore, it can go back into the commercial real estate realm. So I really want to give kudos to the whole team for looking into this. This makes financial sense. It makes sense for our programming in early ed, but also at Park, that is housing some of these programs, and at Heights, that's bursting at the seam, that's housing some other programs. So thank you for your work on this.
Any other comments? This has been a goal for the district for a long time, is to be able to have an early learning center. It's been a dream of mine for a long time, because that has been such a feeder. We've tried so many different ways, looking at so many different things, and this, as far as what's available in that too, this is about the most perfect solution we could have, and to serve our community and really continue the future for Madison. I mean, we have that pathway for all those kids, and so I'm very happy we've gotten to this point. So if there are no other comments, I will entertain a motion to provide the authorization to enter into a purchase agreement and execute it and negotiate it as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Gresham, second by Ms. Kazi. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. That brings us up to discussion regarding future meetings. Dr. Guerin.
President Holcomb, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, board members, I want to thank you for the long afternoon and all of the work we accomplished today. So we only have one board meeting in December. We are holding, potentially having an executive session if the board is interested in engaging in some self-evaluations. We're holding in case we need to have another discussion on IBN and budget advisory. We'll certainly, that's just a potential. There we go. Okay. We have our normal items, but we will also have some more first reads for policies. It's going to be Ms. Garvey and Dr. Lomeli's turn, and then we'll have second reads on the policies I presented this evening. And then for information items, we will have a bond update, a revised, simplified teacher performance-based pay plan that Dr. Lomeli has been working on, and we will have some updates on community education rates and a community ed English language arts adoption. We'll have some district budget revisions. We'll look at community education rates, and the teacher performance-based pay plan will actually potentially be an action item. I have that on there twice. January 9th, we'll have our board organizational meeting. I cannot believe it's already time to do. Any questions?
Any questions or comments, additions? Okay. With that, that brings us up to a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Spear, seconded by Ms. Thompson. Please vote. It's keeping us in suspense.
It doesn't want to.
Yeah. That passes unanimously. We are adjourned.